there's lots of stuff going on in hip hop that I wanted to talk to you about and media. I was started the show talking about Cameron being on CNN last night with Abby Phillip, and I'm blaming everyone for this. First of all, there's not enough of a relationship that she has with this community. And I'm
No.
not saying she's not black, she's black. But there's a certain way. It was weird when I did my first book. After I did LL, I make my own rules. I called all of the publishers because I wanted to do my next book. So I'm calling and pitching myself, right? And that thing hit the bestsellers list, but they still weren't. My phone wasn't ringing. So I'm pitching, and I was like, "Well, who's next?" And I was like, "Queen Latifah. I want to do a book with her." So I knew Terry Williams. You know Terry Williams. She was doing PR for her at the
Yeah.
time, and I reached out, and she was like, "Nah, she already has a book deal. She already has an author." And in my mind, I was like, "Y'all can't just bring a regular author in to work with a Queen Latifah," because I just spent 4 months with LL Cool J, and I had to like do a lot just to get that done because he's in his 20s. So it's like he's here, there, everywhere. I was like, a regular ass writer is not going to be able to do this book. And
No.
I was right. They called me like 4 months later and it was like they went through two other writers. They couldn't finish. I had like 2 months to turn this book around. And you are literally chasing folk because they're in their 20s, they don't care.
Yeah.
But that was interesting. So I'm looking at, even as they pick these hosts, you're going to book Cameron as a guest. You got to know, you got to have some relationship with him and what he's coming with. And his platform's bigger than yours. He doesn't need to be on your show. You're not doing him a favor. So he
Mm-mm.
came with all of the disrespect, and it was disrespectful. Did you see it?
I saw it. It was crazy to watch. And it's interesting. I got a call from CNN on Friday. I think I may even text you this saying they asked me to come on and talk about this situation with Diddy. I believe that what's happening now with a lot of these mainstream media outlets, quote unquote, is that they're chasing their tails. And it's like if something pops up that has to do with black people, usually black males in hip hop or a black person getting killed by the police or something like that, they just call all of us until someone agrees to come on. And I actually feel that, yep, Cameron was definitely ill prepared. It was bad watching that
Was
interview.
he ill prepared, or
Well,
I
here's
feel
what I'm
like
going.
he didn't care. He was
Well,
like, "Oh, I'm gonna go on there and promote my what was it, sex
I I have a
enhancement."
theory. I believe that he didn't care because he came for his. When I say didn't care, he was going to do his thing. But I wonder if they actually told him what it was, because when he said Diddy, why are we talking about Diddy? I was like, wait a minute, what is happening here? You know what I'm saying? I just feel
Mm.
like, there's a reason why like people like me don't do a lot of these interviews anymore, because it's become very sensationalistic, and it's like it's not really leading to anywhere. This is why I love this show and this channel that you're on, because we actually have in-depth conversations. I just felt like it was to get eyeballs, whether he knew about it or not. It just felt like it was ultimately just to get eyeballs, and you can just tag it with. I mean, what did this say? I'm looking at on my text now. It just said, Cameron talks about Diddy. He actually, I mean, he said I didn't really come on here to talk about Diddy. I mean, it was wild to see him take the drink and then say he was ready for some cheeks sex after this thing, and and basically dissed her. I don't even know if he even knows who Abby is, to be honest with you, the way it came across. But to your point, I don't know if she really knows who he is. And I just feel like they both were just kind of thrown in this situation. Ironically, these two black folks, one, a journalist and the other one a rapper. It was sad to me. The whole thing was sad to me.
But it also is very where we are right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been kind of like ever since the Jasmine Crockett, Marjorie Taylor Greene kerfuffle in Congress last week. There's been a lot of back and forth. Jasmine Crockett has trademarked the six B's, and she's got T-shirts that she's selling. And some people criticize listening to Don and Omi. Don was like, "No, you shouldn't be doing that." I see where he's coming from, and I actually agree with him on, there should be a standard, but there is no standard. So why are we pretending that there's a standard of behavior when it only really applies to black bodies? So if it doesn't apply to Trump, then it can't apply to me. If he can say anything and do anything, I should be able to do that too. And the only way we test that theory is to do it. So, while it is not in either one of our purviews to behave that way, because I don't think I would behave that way in Congress,
I would.
I would find a way to get, verbally attack her without attacking her. It would be so much less.
Well,
Jasmine was cute with it. Do you capitalize and you then, because I was saying if she doesn't do the t-shirt, somebody else will, and they're gonna profit. So why not? She can put that money into her campaign fund.
There's already DJs sampling her words, as you probably know,
Yes.
over Not Like Us, Kendrick's beat that DJ Mustard created. I mean, when I see stuff like this with Congress, it's hard for me, Miss Green, it's hard for me to even call her a congresswoman because she shouldn't even be a congressperson. Or what happened with Cameron on CNN with Abby. I just feel like it's symptomatic of the extreme dumbing down of this country because this is where we are, where it's just about insults, dissing people, people being ill prepared, lack of research, sensationalism, algorithms, and it doesn't really have anything to do at the end of the day with actually empowering people in this country or informing people in this country. And this is where we are. I can't, I'm not judging anyone, but I can't imagine, going off on people in Congress like that. I can't imagine coming on a talk show, and people like to throw out the term respectability politics. Nah, let's bring it back to our mamas and daddies and grandparents. It's just basic common sense. You know what I mean? And in terms of us as Black people, there was a time, and not to represent to other people, but for ourselves, there was a standard of excellence that we had to, adhere to. I mean, can you imagine Malcolm X or Dr. King or Faneuil Heyman, Ella Baker going on national TV and just wilding out on somebody? Even, I mean, Malcolm was literally attacked often when he did TV interviews. But because he was so intellectually grounded, he didn't have to yell, he didn't have to scream, he didn't have to curse. He was so prepared, so well read. He just chopped them down intellectually. James
Mm.
Baldwin, the same thing. He would chop people down intellectually, and that's what's missing. Where people are just kind of just who can scream, who can yell the loudest, who can diss each other the most. I'm just not down with any of that because that's not what. And I'm not saying I want to go back to the old. Kev, you want to go back to the? No, I'm just saying this stuff right here is crazy what we're seeing. And one thing I will say about Cameron, because it's Cameron, it's Mace, it's a whole bunch of, as a Black male, it's concerning to me that we have so many Black males with podcasts, morning shows, et cetera, who have these huge platforms. And so many of us are not really prepared to, we're just not intellectually grounded. We're not culturally grounded in a way that makes sense. It's basically what we've done, Karen, just like drug culture and scripted culture is now the mainstream culture of hip hop.
Yep.
Barbershop culture is the conversations on podcasts and these shows. It's the same thing. And I love barbershops, but I'm like, in a barbershop, you could just say anything. But now literally we're saying anything on podcasts, on CNN. I mean, my man took a hit of some sexual enhancement drink that he's selling, and then said, I'm gonna get some cheeks after this on CNN last night. That's what he said. That's what he said. That's what he said. You know what I mean? That's what he said.
Whose fault is this? And can
All
we
of us.
can we put it back? So they say the genie's out of the bottle. Can the genie be stuffed back in? Can we kick I Dream a Genie back into the bottle and stuff her ass in there and put the top on? Like, is
Well,
it too late? And then how do we fix this?
I mean, something else I got to say, like I went back and looked at some old interviews that Cameron did with people like Anderson Cooper years back and other stuff. And it's like, I'm from the hood. I'm from Jersey City in Newark. Like I knew even growing up in the hood and growing up poor and not having a father, stuff I've talked about on the show, my mother had a certain level of expectations for me. You know what I'm saying? It's like we've reduced Blackness to if you're not going through a whole bunch of traumas, if you're not speaking a certain kind of way, if you're not dressed a certain kind of way, then you're not authentically Black, which is definitely insane. Now, I don't agree with Michael Eric Dyson is saying about people dissing Drake because that is colonization. That's something totally different there. That's not the same conversation. When I'm talking about Black folks in the context of America, thinking that there's only one way to behave, and it's like I see people who ain't even from certain environments, or even if you are from the environment, but you've now been exposed to the world in a certain kind of way, but you're refusing to grow up, you're refusing to evolve. I mean, we need to say this very loud and clear. The Cameron, bless him, I was a fan of his music and all of that, but he's 48 years old. He's 48 years old. You had a father in your life. Am I right, Karen Hunter? You talk about him all the
Yes.
time. Can you
Yeah.
imagine your father at 48 or 50 and however long he lived?
At 23, my father's diction, his comportment, the way that he
You see what I'm
presented,
saying?
he wore a suit until he was in his 50s to cookouts. Like, that was my dad. He would wear a suit and tie
That's
everywhere.
how Black men
And really,
roll.
like that, going to an airport in sweats, what, sneakers? My
Uh,
father, I don't even think he owned sneakers until he retired. Like, yeah, we're in a different place.
yeah. It's a juvenilization of the Black community that I think a lot of us don't realize we're participating in when no one wants to grow up. Who do we blame? Social media. Who do we blame? Mainstream media that you and I have talked about that sensationalizes. This is why, like, I'm not going to just come. CNN only calls me when a black man gets killed by the police or it has something to do with something happening in hip hop. That's it. As if we can't even talk
Lazy,
about anything else. And so when we
lazy.
find ourselves having to react to Diddy or Jonathan Majors or George Floyd, or we can go down the list of stuff. I'm like, I'm not participating in that. I'm not participating in that. No, thank you. I'm not available.